Hello. Today I want to give you some ideas and strategies for writing tutors on resisting the urge to edit a paper for a student. Oftentimes, when a tutoring session first begins and the tutor sees the paper or document that a student has brought in to get help on, there is this initial impulse to just snatch up the paper and start marking all over it. Inversely, there are students that will come in with a draft of something and just want the tutor to edit the paper for them. As simple as fulfilling that kind of student's request would be, it does nothing to improve them as a writer. If a student continually makes mistakes and goes to the writing center with the expectation the tutor will fix all of their errors, they will continue to make those same mistakes unless the tutor helps the student get to the root of their problem. So, I'm going to lay out a few ideas that a tutor might potentially try to assist their students to become a better overall writer. First, this should go without saying, and I feel UAB's Writing Center does a really good job of this, but a tutor should make sure their student or tutee is comfortable. I caught myself not doing this when we tutored students from Mr. Guthrie's class a few weeks ago. Instead of acquainting myself with my student and getting a feel for what kind of person she was, I immediately jumped straight into business. Sharing your writing with another person is intimate sometimes, especially if it's an assignment about a personal experience or opinion. A person is sharing their feelings with you, and tutors need to keep that in mind when beginning a session. Granted, time is short in most sessions, usually anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, but it doesn't hurt to talk to your student at the beginning of the session and intermittently throughout the session about things other than writing. The student needs to feel comfortable in order to get them to open up to you and honestly discuss their paper. After all, writing is a very human thing. Let's make sure to keep that human element in it when we're tutoring it. Look at what the student is doing right in a paper. When first sitting down together to work on a paper, don't focus on the errors at all. Instead, the first thing a tutor should do is see what the student is doing right in a paper. Students coming into the Writing Center likely are already feeling nervous about their work to begin with. After all, they would not be coming to the Writing Center if they felt confident in their writing. Finding points in a paper where the student is doing good work can go a long way to boosting the student's self-esteem. We as tutors want them to feel good about their writing and encourage them in their academic pursuits. Likewise, for us, the tutor, by looking for strong points first, like good content, engaging sections of writing, good idea development, even good grammar, allow for the tutor to see where the student's strengths lie and gives the tutor an idea of how to formulate the session. The tutor will know where the student needs the most help in their writing. Where applicable, the tutor needs to ask to see the assignment sheet provided by the instructor. Again, we are ignoring the urge to edit. Make sure the student is addressing the prompt provided in the assignment. Are they answering the question? Do their ideas make sense? Is it in the format that the instructor wants? These are all questions that the tutor needs to make sure the student understands. A student writing a literary analysis, for instance, needs to make sure they understand what sort of analysis that their instructor is looking for. The student needs to understand what it is exactly they're writing. Perhaps most importantly, go beyond the surface level and look at the content of the paper. And I mean really look at the content of the paper. A student may have made numerous mistakes grammatically or mechanically in a paper, but what they're saying might be really good. As a tutor, recognize when the student is able to produce good content and clearly has good ideas. This will not only, as I mentioned earlier, give the student a self-esteem boost, but it will show the student that you're on their side. As we've read in the Bedford Guide this semester, donning the role of collaborator can be useful. By being a collaborator, the power dynamic between student and instructor is downplayed, putting the tutor and student on a more even level. The student might be willing to open up more in this circumstance and relate what they're trying to say in their paper. Content, after all, really is the most important aspect of writing, and I feel that this aspect has been downplayed in recent years in academia. Students find themselves writing not so much as to produce quality work that pushes new ideas forward. Rather, students are writing just to not fail. They are writing documents the way their professor would write them. By doing this, students are not encouraged to use their own voice in writing. This way of thinking needs to change. Praising the student's core content of a paper, oftentimes by knowing that their ideas are worthy and people want to read their work, gives the student encouragement to write more. Over time, simple surface level errors like grammar and spelling will gradually begin to go away on their own. Along those lines, don't be afraid as a tutor to offer suggestions to the content, especially if a paper is genuinely interesting and engaging. You want the student to do the writing, sure, but if a paper has content strong enough to make you think of something that could be added to it, then the paper's doing its job. Again, when in the role of a collaborator, do just that. Collaborate. One of the main reasons writing was conceived of in the first place was that so ideas could be exchanged. So if you think of something to add or a way that a student could expand on something, speak up. There's no harm in giving the students ideas for their work, so long as you're just not telling them what to write down. It is important to note that I am not advocating for any tutor to downright ignore grammatical errors. They still need to be addressed. Not so much so in the sense of just showing the student what it is that they've been doing wrong. Rather, get into the writer's mind as to why these mistakes are being made. For instance, if a student constantly uses a word wrong, find out why. Does the writer come from somewhere where that word is used differently? Perhaps they are spelling out something they've only phonetically heard said aloud. A tutor needs to get into their student's mind in this regard, understand why they are making these mistakes. The student very well may be making them unintentionally. I think a lot of tutors, even if they don't admit to doing this out loud, and I'm guilty of this as well, will look over a paper and make mental notes on spots that need to be corrected. Tutors need to be more in the moment and encourage the student to be the one editing. I'm advocating for a new philosophy of tutoring, a way of sort of unlocking the writer that is already hidden within inside the student. To summarize, tutors need to focus far more on the strengths of the writers rather than their weaknesses. It takes time and restraint to resist the urge to edit and take over a paper the way you would want to write it. That's not a good approach. By focusing on what a student is doing right, we as tutors allow the writers to explore their ideas, and this has a bleed-over effect on all of the students' academic life. Tutors should strive to make the students better writers, of course, but why not also encourage them to be better thinkers as well? Writing is a part of everyone's life in some capacity, and by making better writers, we are making better thinkers too. We as tutors want our students to know that they have a voice and that it is one worth hearing. Over time, by tutoring with this sort of philosophy, I feel that writers will naturally be able to tutor themselves and correct their own mistakes while pushing forward in their work. The students, I think, are far more capable of writers than they even know. You just have to dig it out of them. Thank you, and have a good day.